Now, we haven't forgotten about our citizen developers. We continue to make sure that our platform gets easier for our citizen developers to use as well. We've added new capabilities in Studio X to make sure that now citizen developers can use machine learning models as well to create capabilities, create workflows, to extract information from documents. We have one such customer that has really pioneered the citizen development efforts within their organization. I'd like to hear directly from Dennis Liu, the Chief Executive of Vital. It's an organization based in Singapore. So Dennis, if you'd come up on stage, would love to hear your story.
Thank you, Farah. Thank you.
Thank you, Dennis.
Good morning. Good morning.
So Dennis, can you give me a sense for Vital's role and scope of operations in the Singapore Public Service? Is Vital a private company or?
Yeah, I get asked that question all the time. A little bit of context. Singapore is far, far away. We are a small island, smaller than the size of New York City. We have 5.5 million people. I'm actually a civil servant, a public servant. Vital was set up to aggregate backroom processing, HR, finance, increasingly procurement. So we are known as a captive shared services within Singapore. I serve 100 agencies, well, more than 100 agencies today, and more than 100,000 civil servants.
Wow.
I also would like to say that Vital is an organization that most Singaporeans have never heard of.
Wow, that's amazing. That's really huge scale. Now, you have a huge focus on automation and also a unique emphasis on building citizen developers.
Yes.
Why are these so important for you?
First, on automation and improvement and innovation. I mean, citizens today expect a lot, not just from UiPath, but from government services. So our citizens benchmark what they receive in terms of services against the private sector. That's why I love conferences like these to find out what's happening in the private sector. The Singapore government is very well known for being efficient, but obviously we can do more and we need to do more. So there has been this relentless pursuit on automation, on efficiency, on being able to do things better. But while we do all that, we must remember we cannot neglect our staff, our operational staff. We need to grow their capabilities. Otherwise, the income inequality will just get wider and they'll become disillusioned, disenchanted. The unions will come after me. And the fact of the matter is, I do not have enough IT-trained people to always call on them to do any automation upgrades, right? You want to go faster, but your IT CIO office becomes a choke point. So when you think about it and put everything together, the citizen developer strategy is a real win-win for us. Let the operations, they know the business and the processes best, combine it with the technology. Let them do self-service to create workable solutions, and let the staff, many of whom have no IT background, upskill and learn new technologies, and everybody then can be part of this very exciting technology journey. Robots work, people thrive. So let me share an example. When I started this journey, and this was like 4 or 5 years ago, right? I was in a previous post in the Ministry of Home Affairs, where the policemen, the immigration authorities, a huge ministry, and we have a rather large finance department. A lady, 57 years old, she has the equivalent of what do you call here, a high school diploma, right? Has been doing her finance work all through her years. We sent her for a course, and at that time, UiPath wasn't yet so easy to use. It was Studio.
It was not Studio.
But we thought, let's send her for a course. She's 57, let's try. She went for it. She built 3 bots. We gave her naming rights. She called it Do Re Mi. And most importantly, when she presented to me, then the senior director, the CFO equivalent of the ministry, the pride and joy on her face when she said, look, boss, I've been doing this same work for 30 years. I now got these 3 bots. Wow, I've more time to drink coffee and come chat with you. So that was really a story that really moved me.
Story.
And that was like 4 or 5 years ago.
I feel humbled standing here in front of you who are doing such great work, transforming careers, finding new hopes for people. This is amazing. So as you've looked at the UiPath platform,
yes.
what parts of the platform have been helpful to you as you've looked
Yes.
at the entire end-to-end platform?
Yes, Param, when this question was posed to me, I was thinking maybe I should share some real-life examples and then pull everything together.
Right.
That the stories Leslie talked about just now that really moved me and why I'm here and why I want to share this with you. First example, 65-year-old man, 65-year-old employee, already retired because our compulsory retirement age at 62. We re-employed him, and all through his life, he has been a very good and solid operations officer. He doesn't lead any teams, he just does his work. But he took on himself, learned some Excel, learned some macros. Then we sent him for UiPath, right? UiPath training, macro training. And today he's delivering more value in his job than he has done ever in his life. He is leading a small ops tech team and building solutions using your platform along with other low-code solutions we have to fix real business problems. Example number one. Example number two, somebody very close to my heart. It's my PA. We call her an executive assistant now, but we employ her as a PA. She's a mother, she has a child, she's in her early 30s. When COVID hit, she lost her job. When I look at her CV, she was 10 years in her role, hardly had any income growth. She was doing very mundane stuff. I would say income stagnation. She came in and I said, let you try stuff, let you learn stuff. Because you do have an equivalent of a diploma, we call it, UiPath training. She came back. Today, she one person does 3 jobs. She serves myself and my deputy as our assistants. And she's a full-time officer in the Human Resources Organizational Development Department, where they give her all kinds of admin work to do. And she has built, I think, 3 bots so far, right, which automates all the mundane work she's given. And the bots are so good, we put them in a central library that now other people are using. Second story. My third story, which I hope will pull some heartstrings, and I commend, if you have not seen outside one of your customer stories, was a board on persons with autism. Vital, we are committed to inclusive hiring. I have 6.5% of my workforce as persons with disabilities. And thank you. And what really moved me with this group is, well, let me quote from the screen outside, the board outside. Robots do not discriminate. And I humbly look at it and I ask myself, yeah, I have been discriminating against them because when you look at persons with disabilities, you may think they're liabilities, let's give them some work so that, they have meaningful work. But it's always about simple work. Have we thought about upskilling them and training them and letting them also experience the power of technology? And that's what we did. Today, one of my most capable ops tech expert, we call, is a person with disability. He's so good that he's the first in my organization using your UiPath Studio on an unattended basis.
Wow.
Presenting to me and say, boss, can I do this, completely unattended, and helping to provide all these solutions to his operations people.
Wow.
He has a physical disability. Other areas include persons with autism. And this is where, Param, I give you direct feedback on the stage and commend you. During COVID, some of them couldn't come to work, so we told all of them, please go online to learn UiPath Studio.
Yeah.
And they came back and told me, boss, it's actually very easy. Let me build a few bots for you. So you think about it, technologies like UiPath, low code, no code, have really been able to transform the relationship at work, allow these people to really grow and amplify their abilities. And that to me is why citizen developer is so important.
This is very touching, very inspirational. And so I hear that you're now launching an automation platform using the UiPath automation platform to a staff of 100,000 people in the government.
Yeah.
Tell us about how you're managing that, because there's a few lessons for us to learn there too.
Yeah, so the challenges we have in government, using technologies on cloud is typically security, setting it up properly, able to get it out. So today, I think Leslie mentioned it just now, we have many little silos of excellence all over the place. We also have certain government agencies that haven't figured out how to get around the security issues to use UiPath. And it really doesn't make sense from a whole of Singapore government to have 100 agencies all come to talk to UiPath and say, come develop something for me, right? So Vital, being the central agency for shared services, has taken it upon ourselves. And we say, why don't we build something that not only can be used for my own offices, and we have all the case studies to show how wonderful it is, we can also architect it in a multi-tenanted way and allow the entire public service to come in to use it. So that was the aha moment for me. And the next game changer for us is this. In the past, we have done it in piecemeal, small, using the current technologies on-prem. And every time you guys launch a new product, I ask my staff, I want it now. And they tell me, sorry, boss, next year. It's true, right? So I had to work through with my security teams. It took a year to say, can we have an on-premise yet cloud-native approach? Meaning we have it ring-fenced within our government networks because Singapore government has a computer network that is spreads across. We ring-fence it, yet we take it cloud-native in a way that all the wonderful stuff, your latest release, I think we should get it quite soon once we deploy the automation suite within my system and invest once, used by all. So with that, I think let 1 million bots bloom.
Love it, love it. Let automation bloom. So with that, thank you so much. Really looking forward to your deployment.
Thank you for having me on stage.
Thank you. And seeing more success with the organization.
Thank you.
I'm honored to host Dennis here from the Ministry of Singapore, Ministry of Finance from Singapore. He's been an awesome partner. I've met him probably a couple of times now over Zoom calls and in person. Amazing stories to share. Excellent scalable model that he's come up with. Love to chat with him about it. Thank you so much, Dennis. If you would introduce yourself a little bit more and then we'll get started. Thank you.
Thank you. Apologize for the jet lag. I mean, it's getting into me. But I fly home tomorrow, so if I say something wrong, please forgive me. But thank you very much for the opportunity to speak. This morning was quite energy zapping. But I am a career civil servant in the Singapore Public Service. I started my career with the Inland Revenue. I spent 16 years there. Doing operational roles, basically. I think the bosses decided that I'm not really a tax person, so they kicked me out. Sent me to the Ministry of Home Affairs, where I led the Finance and Admin Division for 3 years, and this is where I really started working with UiPath. And after that, they decided to bring me back to the Ministry of Finance and told me to do shared services. And originally, shared services sounded kind of boring. So why not make it a little bit more exciting? And that's where innovation and business transformation came in. So here am I today. Uma, please.
Thank you so much, Dennis. So how did you get started with RPA? Who brought RPA to you? How did you get started with it?
In my own personal journey, I first came across RPA and not UiPath in my tax days, where there was a business problem we had. We have a bespoke tax system, cost us a few $100 million to build, but it wasn't perfect. And some SI came along and said, I have this RPA product, let me show it to you. And it automated things that we couldn't do, saving lots of manpower. But at that time of the automation, it was done by experts, right? So I looked at it and I said, it's nice, it's neat, but it's done by very clever people. So that was my first interaction with RPA. Then UiPath came. A story I didn't share this morning because I wanted to play up the citizen developer story, right? But I thought I can be a bit more open in this room. I mean, the first time I saw the power of the UiPath platform was in my home affairs days. I was told to do automation, but I was given no budget, no manpower, no nothing. Okay, but UiPath had free trial licenses.
Of course.
Wow, but I was too busy and my staff was too busy to do so. We got interns. And one intern from a local polytechnic, a 16-year-old. I mean, you look at her, she's like a baby. But she's bright, right? Really bright. And you know, government, we just give interns and just hopefully they come on as a civil servants next time. And my guys just thought, well, okay, you're quite clever. There's this UiPath, please go learn it, right? We get your separate laptop. At that time it was Studio, not yet Studio X, Studio. Fast forward, she built 9 bots, which we rolled into production.
That's awesome.
Yeah. But she's so brilliant, right? Her IQ is way up there, and she's probably going to be C-suite level somewhere and around the world. So then my next part of the journey, when I went to Vital was, right, if she could do 9 in like 2 months, maybe I could get my PA to do 1 or 2 in a year. That would be a great achievement. And one thing led to another, and my story you heard this morning was the platform of UiPath was then I could see that a wide spectrum of my officers could actually use it if we give them the correct opportunities, the time, and the business problems to solve. So yeah, it's a journey.
Absolutely. One of the things, like, I don't know how many of you like watch international news that I share on LinkedIn. I don't know how many of you follow me on LinkedIn, but that was like an awesome article that came out of Singapore where he is actually enabling all the ministries across Singapore to use automation, which is amazing. Kudos to him and his team. Why don't you talk about it, Dennis?
Okay. Now, so in Vital, we obviously have our own automation teams. We set up infrastructure. We have attended, unattended boards. We have orchestrator and all that. So, I mean, when I came on board, we wanted to take it one step further. So the first step we took was, let's see what UiPath has, what is coming up. What's the better way to implement it? So the first step was, all right, maybe we should do with an automation suite. We should bring it in what we call a on-prem but cloud native approach. Now, why we want to do that was because up till now, we've been implementing line by line, service by service in silos. And my poor chaps always get the brunt of it from me because you release new releases every 6 months, 1 year. I watch them, and then I say, I want it like tomorrow. And my church, I say, I'm sorry, it's on-prem, it'll be next year. And by the time next year comes, you have something else. So it's extremely discouraging for me.
We'll try to make it better, for sure.
But it's not your fault, right? If I could go, the larger story is if I could go directly to cloud, obviously I could get it. But I can't. I'm government, security, and all that. So I set my team a challenge. I said, I want a system that I can download and get it straight away and build it. So actually the biggest hurdles for me then was security. Right, security, my CIO is from also dual reporting lines. He reports to me, but he also reports to my government technology agency, big name, GovTech. And he spent a few months trying to figure out how to make it work, but to cut the long story short, he did. Right, he managed to build a box where we can roll in UiPath in a cloud native way to talk to all our systems within government, which handles confidential data and all that. He managed to do that. And then the next question I threw at him is, hey, we had to go through 6-9 months of pain. Every other agency who wants to use it in the same way will have to go through the same pain. That it's times 100. And that's just silly, right? Just silly. And I'm right in the center of government, Ministry of Finance. My boss, the permanent secretary, controls all the money. She'll be very upset. So I told them, why don't we then architect our system in a way that everybody else within government can use? And that aha moment resulted in what we just announced. And my CIO is now so happy. He's like, he gets all these new toys to play with. We've migrated beyond VM. We're going to use something else. And he tells me he's going to have multi-tenants. We're going to be like a landlord. And we're going to get people to come in and do the licenses. And that's what's going to happen. And with that, I just met Daniel at 1 p.m. And we explained it. And we said, we're going to drive adoption. This morning on stage, I said 1 million bots. It's possible. I have more than 100,000 officers. Each one do a couple. Yeah, we'll reach 1 million soon. Then maybe UiPath will give me a preferred partner or what.
That's awesome. I'm going to pivot a little bit and ask you a very different question. With automation and AI being the next frontier of like where technology is going, just overall across the world, how do you bring like human and machine interaction to, your people? Because ultimately they are the beneficiaries of what we do in public sector. So how is that?
I think the whole idea of automation and robotics is extremely scary for everybody, especially public sector. Because public sector traditionally, even in Singapore, it's a bit slow. People join public sector to have an iron rice bowl. They don't want to take competition in the private sector. When the recession comes, like during COVID, I think the government announced it, I can share. We were told to just hire, right? We absorbed thousands and thousands of people during that 2 years. I think the environment today is helping me because now everybody's leaving. I have no talent, not enough manpower. Right, so then that's why I'm pushing this so hard right now, because then the citizen development story and automation and robotics, then you can see that by augmenting each staff to do more, not only can we get the work done, we can also increase their salaries by putting them on higher jobs or even authorizing a higher pay. And that struck me recently, and I share with you is, you know, the guy that was the 65-year-old, this morning I mentioned on stage, this 65-year-old chap that was doing all these incredible automation for me. When I read his CV last week and looked at his pay, I was like, oh, that's not fair. But under civil service rule, So I told HR, can we pay more? I can't promise him yet, but I'm going to try, right? When his contract is up for renewal, he has retired. He retired at 62, that's Singapore. He's now 65. I hope he has long life. He can work another 15, 20 years. Yeah, why can't we, do something about what we are going to hire him on? And I think stories like these will then make everybody excited. Stories like these will make people want to do automation because they no longer see themselves confined and constrained in what they originally started in the service with. In Singapore, you start in the civil service based on your grade, based on your qualification, based on, and over time you kind of like get stuck there based on a certain rigidity. That's my system anyway. But the minister has been talking about continuous meritocracy. And what that means is, you can use skills that are very hot in the market. I think I can easily push to justify a bigger pay. And that gets people very excited.
Absolutely, absolutely. That's one of the struggles in public sector, competing with the private industry, absolutely.
And I lose many of them to private sector, which is fine.
Yeah. Awesome. One more question. One of the things that I've seen, right, like I have a lot of friends in Singapore. Like,
thank you.
Not only you, but personal friends as well, which has been awesome because I love Singapore, like love the food there. So one of the things that I've seen with Singapore in general, right, like the innovation, even though it's public service, the amount of innovation that comes out of a country like Singapore across multiple fronts, and like with AI and machine learning and everything coming along. What is your take? What is your vision around it? What is your strategy for like AI and what are you thinking about it?
Well, first, thank you for giving me an opportunity to talk a bit about the country in larger terms. I mean, Singapore can only exist if we continue to remain exceptional. I think many people outside the world may not realize it. If you come to my country, you'll see how small we are. The moment the plane takes off, we're over a foreign country. And from time to time, the foreign country tells us that I want the airspace back. And that's why we buy plenty of American jets. And, we buy German tanks and I don't know where ships from where to say, I have a big army, try to play with me. We have to find a way to survive in this world. So I think everyone in Singapore, especially the public service, we have a huge mission to just survive and to be exceptional. Then we also are humble enough to admit that we don't know what we don't know, and that's why I'm here, right? Yep. To me, a government service in Singapore is we just have to be very fast followers with what's happening in the world. Because in the domain of HR, finance, shared services, that's my domain. I can only speak for that domain. The best practices and the smartest people are all in the private sector anyway, right? And it's how fast we bring that into government and how fast we adapt and how fast we keep ahead of the curve. Yeah, I can't speak for those high-level policies that my colleagues do, so that's why I'm not those policy makers, but in terms of operations, in terms of efficiency, in terms of design thinking, yesterday Changi Airport was mentioned. If anybody of you have been to Singapore, you fly through Changi, It's about design thinking, isn't it? They didn't get there overnight, right? They looked at the pain points, they try to make it faster, they try to get a bag from the plane to the gate within X minutes, and they push themselves to the very limit because there is purpose and lots of passion, and we just want to be a viable country.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah.
So thank you so much, Dennis, for your time. It was awesome. For people who've not gone to Singapore, I recommend that you guys travel to Singapore. It's an awesome country.
Yes.
Lovely food, lovely people. Thank you.
Thank you.